Hello everyone, TheShnizNite aka the Sega Collector, back again with another review. Normally I don't review a lot of the new Sonic collectibles that come out, as I'm a fan of the more vintage and hard to find stuff. But when I heard about the company Jakks stepping in with the Sonic license, I've kept my eye out for some information. A while ago it was announced a new bendable toy line would come out, making this the first Bendy Sonic line since the Sonic X Bendables or the Joyride Studios Sonic Adventure 2 Battle figures. Well, it appears this week the figures have been popping up in stores and I've managed to grab a couple. I grabbed Sonic, Tails, and Shadow. But my store was missing Knuckles. Perhaps I'll do a Knuckles review on the horizon, but today I am pleased to present to you all an unboxing and review of the new Jakks Sonic the Hedgehog flexible figures. Now before we unbox these figures, let's take a look at the packaging. The packaging is a dark blue with white highlights and a big gold ring surrounding the plastic. Up at the top we have a really great cutout of Sonic, making this box very unique. This also appears to be a brand new render of Sonic, so we are not seeing old art that's been used before. Up at the top of the ring we see the words bendable and flexible, letting customers know these are not ordinary figures, but ones that could be bent in many different positions. Down towards the bottom, you will see the Sonic the Hedgehog logo with the name of which character you bought underneath. The Jakks logo is right in the corner, and it's so interesting to welcome another toy company to the history of Sonic collectibles. Then we have the actual figures. You will see the figure on the left side of the box and a small disc on the right side. Each figure comes with a different disc, which we'll get to soon. Moving over to the back of the box, you are given a clear picture of the character inside, as well as instructions for the disc. Then at the bottom, we see the rest of the figures available for purchase in this range. I have to say, I really like this box art. Jazzwares had some great box designs, but I never understood that orange and yellow color scheme they went with. And while Tommy's was visually interesting, I felt the blue was a bit too dark. This box has a nice blue fitting of the character and a big ring around it with Sonic up top, making sure you don't mistake this for any other brand. Alright, let's first unbox Sonic. Now I can't lie, I was very excited to get these figures. The Toy Island bendable figures were my childhood, and it's so great to be able to see new bendy figures again. With Sonic out of his box, I am already impressed. Sonic's sculpt is simply great. I love the detail on his face. He has his modern grin with a closed mouth, and his eyes appear a tiny bit smaller than the Tommy figures, which is much more accurate. What I love about bendy figures is how they give the figure a smooth appearance. Sonic has a very flexible and curvy appearance in a lot of the official artwork, and making the figure bendable captures that look rather than adding on a lot of joints, which I feel can distract from the look. Sonic's head is on a ball joint and can rotate, but because of this, he has a bit of an apparent neck. Sonic is not ever usually depicted with a neck, but figures have done this before, such as the Rhesaurus one. As expected, you can bend the legs and arms any way you'd like, and it's rather easy to do, it's not too stiff or anything. I did, however, find trouble bending the arms back to make it look like Sonic was running. Sonic has two different hand sculpts. One hand is closed, and the other is in a thumbs-up position. All of Sonic's shoe details are accounted for, such as the white stripe, his gold buckles, and even his treads. Sonic does indeed have the correct number of spikes as expected, and to my surprise this figure can actually stand on its own with no problem. I was very scared of this, as most Sonic figures can't seem to stand up, but if you bend the figure just right, he will stand up, and even when I slammed my hand on the table, Sonic didn't move. Sonic's sculpt may be great, and his paint is great as well, but this is a bendable figure, which means you have to be careful with these. It is very possible that you could snap the flexible wire inside the arms and legs, and once you do that, your figure is broken forever. That cannot be fixed. Your figure will lose the ability to bend and will be really flimsy and delicate. Luckily, from what I can see, these figures seem to be durable enough if played with sparingly. Sonic also comes with a disc that has pixel art of Knuckles on it. At first I was confused what this was all about, but then I found out that you just fold out the characters and you would find a small pixel art toy of a Sonic character. Then the character can be folded back up and rolled, kind of like a spin dash. I know these may not get as much love as the figures, but I actually think this is a great gimmick for a toy, and using pixel art actually makes it more visually interesting. All in all, this is a great Sonic figure, but we aren't done yet. Now it's time to unbox Tails. You can't get Sonic without Tails, and from the prototypes, Tails looked to be an incredible figure. With Tails out of his box, I am instantly blown away. For years now, Tails has had some pretty weird looking figures. The Resource one was clearly doing its own thing, has its own style. The Toy Island Tails looks a little chunky, and the Tomy one is just incredibly odd and short. The only company to make what I believe was a good Tails figure was Jazzwares, who made a 3-inch and a Superposer. Both of which look nice in my book, but it's nice to see a figure that gives Jazzwares a run for its money. The bendable Tails looks great. The color choice is spot on in my opinion, not too orange or too bright a yellow, and all his proportions seem very accurate. Tails' face looks great, he has a nice centered smile, and his eyes are big and blue. The cheek tufts and bangs are also shaped excellently. When it comes to paint, Tails has all his details, from his white stomach fur to the gray on his gloves and shoes. Tails also has treads on the bottom of his shoes, just like Sonic, and they look great. However, one downside of this figure is Tails' tails. Appropriately, they are large, but they can't do anything. They can't bend, and if you try, you may rip them out of their socket. The tails can't even swivel around so that they are facing down. They are permanently stuck like this. This means getting the figure to stand is a bit of a hassle due to being top-heavy. Getting him to stand, however, is possible if you bend him the correct way. Tails also has a ball joint and a neck, so the head has some nice movements, but just like Sonic, I found the arms hard to move backwards. Tails has a closed fist and an open waving hand. While this figure looks great by itself, I have to bring up another downside. Compared to Sonic, Tails is out of scale. Tails is supposed to be shorter than Sonic, but here he appears to be the same height, if not a little taller. This is a problem with nearly every Tails figure that is ever released, and it's interesting that to this day, companies still make this mistake. Tails being out of scale and his top heaviness are issues that affect the figure, but he still looks fantastic, and even if he may be the weaker of the figures, that doesn't make him bad. Tails also comes with an Amy pixel art disc that when folded out looks really nice. Tails is good in my book, and even with his flaws is a huge step up from Tomy's attempt. Finally, we are moving on to Shadow. Shadow was an interesting one for many reasons that I'll get into soon. But I think most importantly is this is the first modern Shadow figure to come out for a good couple of years. While Tomy planned a Shadow figure, I don't believe he ever came out, which is a shame because Tomy had some great ideas. But I suppose this is why Jakks Pacific stepped in. So with Shadow out of his box, he has one issue that is very apparent: his neck. Just like Sonic, Shadow is given a neck for a ball joint, but unlike Sonic, his neck is really apparent. Like, it looks really tall. And I saw this when it was in the box in the store, but I was hoping I could press down the head a bit, but no, his long neck is always going to be apparent. And that's kind of unfortunate, because besides the very glaring physical issue, his details and paint job are great. Shadow has a lot more detail than most Sonic characters. His chest fur has some nice texturing on it to make it appear fuzzy, and his rings and cuffs are painted correctly with the correct details etched in. My biggest concern was the shoes, but I can safely say everything is here and accounted for. Every detail from the black and white up top to the jets underneath. The holes aren't actually painted black, but honestly I can forgive that as many Shadow figures simply have flat bottom shoes, which is really lazy for a character like this. Shadow is depicted with a frown on his side and his red eyes, which are also correct. Shadow has two different hand sculpts. One hand is open, as if he is grabbing something, and the other is closed. Giving the figures sculpted hands rather than fists really makes them unique, and you are able to get more poses with them. Look at these poses, for example. Shadow's spikes are sculpted just as well as Sonic's, and everything looks to be great. Shadow also comes with a Sonic pixel art disc. This one I actually had a hard time getting to roll, but all in all, despite Shadow's cosmetic flaws, such as his neck, I really do like this figure, and it's great to see some modern Shadow stuff again. So with all that said and done, how do I feel about these figures? To be honest, while I'm a big fan, I'm also a little nervous. Bendable figures can break and snap very easily, and I'm very afraid these figures will be played with by lots of kids, and those poor kids will break their new Sonic toys. I'd have to say I find these figures better for collectors as opposed to kids. But at the same time, I have stated I like Bendy Sonic figures over articulated ones. I think each figure looks very great and almost looks extracted out of the games. These are some super accurate figures. But when it comes to durability, all I can say is be careful. Priced at $9.99 each, these are very affordable and nice figures for any Sonic fan. And if you are interested in any of them, they have begun to appear in Target stores this week. I recommend these figures, but I also recommend caution when playing with them. Welcome to the family of Sonic collectibles, Jakks Pacific. I can't wait to see what you do next because you really won me over with these.